Good morning. Welcome to another week. Certainly a great life God's given us. And there are awkward, difficult, frustrating things, but let's not overemphasize those, and let's remember the good and the joyous and the happy. This we'll be in Luke chapter 19 in a minute, but this world would get you to focus on those difficult things and get you to forget the good things. That's the flesh. The flesh is never satisfied. This old body, this flesh, it's not just the skin, although that's part of it. The old nature focuses on how come I don't have what they have, and it's covetousness. How come it's a distrust in God? How come that person is tall and skinny and I'm short and plump, and how come they've got the perfect complexion and I've got this, and the things that go on in our heart that we allow to, the meditations we allow to dwell, to just sit in us, they're a mess. And I have plenty of complaints about the way our nation is being ruled, but I'm not going to forget we have a Constitution, we have a Bill of Rights, we have a Declaration of Independence, and no other nation in the history of the world that I have ever heard of ever started with a Bible as the base for their legal system. No other nation, and I know because humanity's in it, it's flawed, but no other nation even has on paper the idea that we're going to have equality. Of course, England had the ruling monarchs and the peasants. We're pretty close to that, and but our founders didn't want that, and so at least we've got it in documents. And I may be unhappy with some things, but I'm not gonna take so much time meditating on what I'm unhappy about that I forget how good God's been. More of us in America, more of us have weight problems than hunger problems. And I see an ad once in a great while. So many, 1 out of 5 children in America went to bed hungry. I just don't know. If it's on the news, the media, somewhere, whether it be internet or I just don't know if I trust it. I'm a doubter. But I know the people I know, they may wish they had more steak, but just line us all up and look at us profile, and you'll see most of us are bulging, not concave, and that's the goodness of God. God's given us so much, and most of us have beautiful cars and nice homes. And the home I was in as a boy, there were 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. And that was normal. I'm not sure I knew anybody that had 2 bathrooms in their house. I know there had to have been. But in our world, the world I grew up in, housing tracts in Southern California, I lived in a little community called Thousand Oaks, just past Westlake, east of Newberry Park and Oxnard, that area, between LA and the coastal cities. And it was just a normal place. But we had so much. And now, in our community especially, we have so much more. If kids don't have their own bathroom, they feel like they're being tortured. If they don't have their cell phones and on, and we're blessed. So let's start the week out counting our blessings. That song, Count Your Blessings, Name Them One by One, that is a good song. And we need to rejoice. We need to take time to tell God thank you. And if you haven't taken a look, I'm sure something on you doesn't hurt today, and you ought to thank God for it. I'm sure something on your body works, eyes, ears, whatever. Thank God for it, because the people who are struggling with their hearing, they love to hear like you and I do. And the people that are struggling walking would love to walk like you and I do. And let's don't be ungrateful. God is good, and we have some inconveniences, and we have some evil. The book of Galatians said that Christ came to deliver us from this present evil world. And he didn't just mean first century Jerusalem. He meant this world system, the system that operates the world It's an evil thing. And it's been that way from the beginning. And so let's understand we ought to be on our guard, and we ought to do our best to, I don't know, lay some boundaries if God in his mercy would allow us to. But the fact is, God's been awfully good to us, and we have so much to be grateful for. Anyway, starting the week off, I wanted to look at Luke chapter 19, and a very familiar verse to many of you, but I want to take some time and just think, just briefly, I want you to think with me about why we're here. If you want to look at Luke 19:10, it says this, "For the Son of Man is come to seek and to save that which was lost." That's why Jesus came. Jesus came to earth to seek out people. He came to look for people and to save the lost. That's what he came for. He didn't come to invent religion. He didn't come to have you give up your bad habit or your selfishness, although that would be a help in getting his work done. But he came to save people. Jesus came looking for people. He came to search out those that would have an open heart. This last week, I heard testimonies from people, a faithful Mormon, somebody who'd been in the Mormon church all their life from birth to adulthood, now they're parents, and they were just really questioning this and this and this. And they happened across one of our soul winners, and they got talking, answered some questions, and they said, that makes sense. So here was somebody ready to get saved. They were searching. They were looking. What did it take? It took one of you out there on the streets just talking to folks and put the two together, and they got saved. And then another person, a faithful a Jehovah's Witness this week, someone who's very long-term, a veteran in their religion. But the issue of salvation and the issue of Bible truth, they were struggling with it, and they got saved. Why? Because somebody cared enough to go talk to them. That's why they got saved. Because somebody was out there in their world. I sit here in my office. The unsaved people are not going to come to the church front door and knock on the door and say, what must I do to be saved? I need to go out looking for them. And that is our job as the people of God. So in Luke 19:10, he says, the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which is lost. If you go over to the Gospel of John chapter 20, and down at verse 21, it's one of the last things Jesus is saying to his disciples, and it's a very simple statement. As the Father has sent me, John 20:21, as the Father has sent me, even so send I you. Jesus has he's risen from the dead. He shows up in that upper room, and there, if you notice, he said, peace unto you. In verse 22, he said, he breathed on them and said, receive ye the Holy Ghost. And this simple statement, as the Father has sent me, so send I you. We've been sent to this world, and that's our job. Now, maybe a carpenter, maybe a garbage collector, maybe a housewife, maybe a businessman, maybe somebody in a ministry, education, or whatever it might be. I don't care if it's a professional athlete. Whatever people do for a living, whatever we do to take up our hours and make enough money to care for our family, that we need to do that. It's biblical. Working and laboring is all a part of the curse in Genesis. Man's going to earn his living by the sweat of his brow, but that's not the main thing. The main thing, he said, as the Father has sent me, even so send I you. And over in 2 Peter 3:9, it says, God is not willing that any should perish. God cares for everybody. And just a few minutes ago, I've got a map in the little back room where there's a bunch of missionary cards, and I'm looking at that map, and especially picturing that little center section. They call it the 1040 window, from the South Pacific across Southeast Asia and the Middle East and North Africa. And that they call it the 1040 window because of the longitude and latitude. But they say there's a higher percentage of lost people there than anywhere else in the world, and a lower percentage of gospel preachers. And I just think Last night I talked about prayer. I think it'd be worth you having a globe or a map and looking at it and trying to picture those cities. And if you're one of these people who you got a lot of time, get your phone or your computer and Google images of Taipei, Hong Kong, Tibet, and they're going to show you beautiful mountains and streams and all that. You want to see the people. You want to see the temples, the Buddhist temples. You want to see the Hindu idols where in India people pray to 1,000 different gods, and they look at those little deities, just statues, and pray to them and offer offerings to them, hoping that maybe one of those little deities would make their life better. And all the time, we've got the eternal Word of God. We've got the gospel. We've got the gospel story of Christ's death, burial, and resurrection. All the time, we've got the message of a free gift of eternal life. And I think it'd be good if we'd take a look at, last night I said one of the prayers that the Lord asked us to pray, he said, pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest that he would send forth laborers into his harvest. That as I look at that map or look at that globe, look at those pictures of some part of the Middle East. Google images of Afghan cities, and look at the mud huts up in the hills. Go to we've got missionaries we support in lots of places, but Pakistan, and see the people who they don't even have running water. They don't have a well. They live on the water from rainfall that they gather, and live a very meager existence. And one of our missionaries there in Pakistan is helping dig wells and get water into a city, into a little village, and all it is a well with a pump. But he has the means and the people to help him to dig the well in the desert and find the water, and then they can pump it up. And that whole village gets one well and one pump. And look at those and pray. Because those kids, those adults, those grandpas and grandmas, they're going to spend eternity somewhere. And I want to encourage you to keep conscious and to pray. And that's why we ought to pray that God calls our young people to preach. I think it's why we ought to pray that our mission giving goes up, because we want to be able to send more money to support people around the world who are preaching the gospel. And so you go from the world and then bring it in close to home. Look at pictures of your grandkids or great-grandkids, and just ask yourself, are those kids saved? Are those kids going to heaven, or are they going to go to hell? Because there comes a point when a child's accountable, and there's no biblical age. There's a couple of principles. To him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, it is sin. So perhaps it would be once they know the difference between right and wrong. I don't know. But there is a point when a young person learns they have offended a holy God. And when they know that their behavior is offending a holy God, I think somewhere in there, they're going to be accountable eternally for what they do with Jesus Christ. Pray for your grandkids and then all of us. And I just now empty my shirt pocket because I'm online here trying to be somewhat not professional. I don't want to be professional, but a little bit more online-ish, how you're supposed to look and act. But carry gospel tracts and give out some tracts. If all of us just gave out tracts and witnessed, there's people here and there going to listen. They're going to ask a question, or we'll get them thinking, and then they're going to talk to somebody else, and they're going to lead them to Christ. We just have no idea. We have no idea. And also, there are people out of church we should care about. When it says, I came to seek and to save that which is lost, there's some people, they're very gifted. They're maybe good teachers, or maybe they're good they could sing or play an instrument, or maybe they're a good organizer. The Bible talks about gifts of administrations, people that know how to put something big together. I mean, I know they're probably not anything godly about them. I don't know any of them personally, but the people who run these giant corporations like Amazon and Google and all this, they are sharp when it comes to putting millions of pieces together and making it all flow. I couldn't do that. And think about how gifted they are. What would happen if they got saved and put their administrative skills to work for the gospel? They're the kind of people that could organize tens of thousands of missionaries and help with, orphanages here and Bible colleges here and Christian schools here in these different countries, and this ministry building church buildings, and this ministry digging wells. And you think about what these people organize for money. What could they organize for the gospel's sake? And so could I just encourage you as we start the week, let's think about the lost. Let's be conscious of our family members, our next door neighbors. Let's be conscious of our children and our grandchildren. And if you would, like on a Sunday morning, if you're at our church, there you'll see the teen choir will sing, 40 or 50, whatever, young people up there, however many are there. And there's a lot more than that in church. There's not all in choir, but let those kids get in your mind. Look at them and pray for them. And then you think about those kids that are sitting in church and they're, those kids, we need to finance the bus ministry. And I think about how many young people I'd love to see get into our Christian school. If God would open the doors for money and travel expense and all that, people matter. And Jesus came. Now one day he's coming again. And when Jesus comes again, he's coming as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He came the first time as the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. The second time he's coming as King of Kings. The first time he came to give his life. The second time when he comes again, he's coming to be worshiped and adored. And forever he will get the glory he deserves. But for the moment, right now, could we just be concerned about a lost world? And pray for your Sunday school teachers in your church. You might not know all of them, but you know a couple of them. Pray for them. Pray for those who have bus routes. Pray for the jails and the rest homes. And the Lord loves people. And on Sundays and little by little as jails and different things open up, other days besides Sunday, but ladies' jails and men's jails, and we're not in prisons. Some churches have prison ministries. Just hasn't happened here. But we're in jails, and then the rest homes, and the great need of people to hear the gospel of Christ, and then for the saved who are out of church, that they might be drawn back in, that their talents and their gifts might be merged with others, and that they would be able to do whatever God's called them to do. I don't know what God's called them to do, but God made us all for a reason, and God's made you for something more than just making money and being frustrated with a stupid world around you and then getting old and dying. Your life matters. And that life, I was talking to somebody this last week. It happened to be a UPS truck came by, and I was in the yard. And so I walked out to save him a few steps to get the box. And I took the box, thanked him, smiled, was friendly. But those guys are busy, so I wasn't going to occupy a lot of his time. And I turned around, and he said, "Pastor Goddard?" And I turned around and said, "Yes, dude." And he took his hat off. He's looking at me. I said, "Do I know you?" He said, and then he called his name. He said, "Yeah." I had no idea who he was. I said, "I am so sorry." I'm walking up. I shook his hand. I said, "I'm so sorry. Tell me, who you are, where we met." Well, he's probably 40 or 35 right now in my front yard. And he said, "When I was about this tall, I rode the bus from Quail Valley." And I thought, well, that's why I don't recognize you. I've changed, but maybe not changed as much as he has. He said, "I saw your face and I knew that was you." And I thought, I saw your face and I didn't have any idea who you were. But he got saved riding our buses, and then life came on like it does. Hardships, busyness, difficulties, and been years and years, decades since he's been in church. I said, "Oh, you ought to come back. He's got a couple of kids." I said, "You ought to bring your kids to Sunday school." And he said, "Well, I work Sundays." And I said, "I'll tell you what, if you'll pray, tell God, you get me off Sundays, I'll go to church." And he just said, "Oh, that ain't going to happen." And he got in the truck and went away. I don't know if it meant he's not going to pray or God wouldn't answer the prayer. I don't know what he was meaning, but he wasn't, he was not ready, at least outwardly, to say, "I want back to church." But I want him back. and he matters. And there's the young people that life has gotten them busy, sometimes marriage and work and career or whatever, they've gotten busy and out of church. They matter to God. And it's not just that little Pakistani teenager, that little Afghan child, the kid in some jungle in South America or Africa somewhere. It's the kid down the street. It's the kids who used to be on a bus or in our Sunday school. They matter. They matter a lot. And I was listening to one of our groups sing at our church here, and I thought, isn't it great that all those kids, they're all at least second or third generation Christians. And there's a world out there that needs somebody to help them get started with getting saved, getting growing. So I hope you'll care. Just think about the world, whatever God would have you do. All of us could carry a track or two. All of us could pray. And let's ask God's blessing. Pray that God would bless this week and that we would be a help to this old broken world around us. What a mess this world's in. My wife and I were talking to a guy last week, probably for an hour, maybe a little more, hour and a half. And he and his family have gone to church some, but he never quite answered the salvation question, whether he knew for sure he was saved, and I wasn't going to press it. We were talking, and because of the circumstances, I was a little extra careful and guarded in what I said, but money's there, career is there, but you know what? I just thought, how many little things could be better if he knew for sure he was saved, if he made sure his children were saved, if he had his family in church, and if he used his gifts and talents to serve God. And yet, right now, not much at all. And just because somebody's got a nice car and a nice house doesn't really mean they've got life. And so I hope you'll pray and keep an eye out for people and love people and care about this poor old broken world. Some people are broken very poor. Some people are broken very rich. But most of this world's broken. And I hope you have a great week. Thanks for joining us today.